I don't get it as well. Now, let's throw a little bit of petrol on this conversation tonight. Joining me now is our loud and feisty panel, consisting of the Director of Verve Communications, Prue MacSween, New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes, and former Labor Minister Graham Richardson himself. Welcome to you all.
Welcome, Smithy. Chris. Hi, guys.
Thanks, good to have you on. 4 ISIS brides and their 13 children have spent their first night in Australia. I know that the country won't talk about it because the government doesn't want to talk about it, but I think the population is very unstable about what's about to develop here. May I start with you, Holly Hughes? Tell me, is this going to come back and bite us on the bum?
Well, I hope not, and I sincerely mean that. It's interesting, though, you just made the comment that no one wants to talk about it, yet we seem to have all of this information out in the public domain about how these first ISIS brides have returned to Australia. So it's sort of, I'm not 100% sure where this information is coming from in the first place and how that information is getting out there. This is a worry. I think it is concerning. We don't know exactly what this is entailing. We don't know how much security is going to be put behind this and at what level these ISIS brides, for lack of a better term, where they were within this organisation. They knowingly left Australia. They willingly became part of Islamic State, which has an anti-Western sentiment. And just because we're not seeing the terror attacks that we got so used to seeing a few years ago that were absolutely dreadful, it doesn't mean that that threat has completely passed. So the Albanese government has to own this decision and it will be, interesting to see as times go forward where this all ends up.
There was a written statement yesterday, Prue, that they apologised to the Australian community for what they did and where they went. But as I spoke with Peter Credlin today on my radio program, she was privy to the intelligence about the women who went to Syria, and many of them were very much part of what was going on with the husbands and the boyfriends that they were with. You just have to rely on de-radicalisation programs working, and I don't trust them.
Well, neither do I, Smithy. It's been proven that they don't always work, and we've seen that in London where people who've been through de-radicalisation programs have actually then come straight out and committed acts of terror. So are we saying that the Albanese government is prepared to sacrifice the safety of the rest of us, the 25-odd million of us, and put us all at risk in the name of humanity? Well, what about our security and our humanity? Look, it's tragic about these children. These women, we don't know if they were forced over or whether they were just gullible fools. I also wonder about their parents who are, of course, now welcoming them home and giving every apology they can and assurance they can. But what kind of parents were they that they, raised people who were either of their free will prepared to go and fight with terrorists or were taken? I believe at least one of the girls was taken over to Syria by the parents. So what's that all about? So there are just so many questions about this. We feel for the children, obviously, but I feel also for the greater good of the rest of us.
My gut feel, Richo, is that we've got to see how this pans out. However, the Save the Children people told me today that there's another 30 children with a half a dozen mothers who they're trying to repatriate in the next couple of months. Isn't it time we just said, hang on a second, let's watch this play out?
Yeah, but it's hard to do that, Chris. I mean, if these are Australians, then I don't see how you keep them out. You can't keep an Australian citizen out, that's obvious. And it would seem to me that some of them must be Australian citizens. So we need to see which categories of women there are. But when the crunch comes, irregardless of the women, what, is Australia really going to say no to children? Are we really going to say to the little kids, innocent children, we don't want you?
And this is why it's a hard decision to make. I get all of that. I get how hard a decision is it to make, but you just wonder whether we're creating a problem for ourselves as well.
Yes, you do. I can't deny that. That's a fact. But as I said, I just don't know how you say to children, no, you can't come through the door.
Yeah. Now, a couple of quick ones. I don't know if anyone watching is planning a trip to Bhutan anytime soon, but you might want to pack your extra cash because the Himalayan kingdom has just reopened its borders and is imposing a tax on tourists of $310 a day to offset carbon emissions and plant trees. I'm not so sure that that's smart in attracting tourism, Holly Hughes.
Well, it's not on my immediate travel plan list. Camping's not really my thing. I guess no one's going to be shocked by that. And I'm not quite sure I want to pay $310 additional for the pleasure per day to... and look, I've actually gone on a hike up the Himalayas from Nepal. And,
you haven't?
And, I have done that. In fact, I did that with my family when I was quite a bit younger. But it was a fantastic experience. So I can probably say I've knocked it off the bucket list. It is a beautiful and wonderful thing to do, but it's a hefty price for some pretty basic lifestyle. You know, when you're over there, it's not going to be glamping in any shape or form. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them.
Prue, I wanted to raise this terrible attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, who I'm happy to say is going to make a full recovery. But I just wonder, a hammer attack of that nature, based on political views and objections and anger, that is not the way we should play the game. It doesn't matter what side of politics you're on.
No. Look, it's terrifying that, the trend in America now where, well, we've seen gun violence for decades, of course, but now when it's politically driven or, and these kinds of attacks on, our political leaders of any persuasion are just so untenable and unacceptable. And I just feel very, very sad. And I know that people will blame Trump because he did polarise and ignite. Pelosi has too, so there's no excusing it. It's appalling.
Yep.
And I'm glad he is going to recover. But, let's hope we never have this kind of thing here.
Yeah, so let's hope it doesn't trigger copycats. That would be my concern. Now, this Vladimir Putin, Richo, has no qualms about hurting the most needy in the world. He's pulled the plug on a UN-brokered grain deal with Ukraine because there was an attack yesterday on his Russian fleet in the Black Sea. The UK say it's a lie, and now starving kids in Africa go hungry. He has no shame.
Now, this guy is a grub of the worst water. There's no doubt about that. No leader in the entire world acts like he does. And I think he regards murder as a normal part of political operations. And we can't tolerate people of that ilk, ever. And so, in my view, all you can do is tighten whatever sanctions you have, and tighten sanctions on not just him, but all the people who prosper from the regime. If you look at his generals and you go through his billionaires that are his mates that he shares the quid with, because let's face it, this bloke's on 300 grand a year and he's in the top 20 richest people in the world, which doesn't quite add up to me.
You're not wrong. Now, the Victorian Liberal leader, Matthew Guy, Holly, has come up with a novel election pledge today, a $300 million plan to give free school lunches to students. Are there votes in this? I guess it would help cost of living. Parents might be impressed. It's an odd one.
This is socialism. It's just extraordinary. And I actually was in Melbourne earlier today and bumped into one of the Victorian Liberal Party MPs. And I can't say their feedback on this was particularly positive. It just seems that there seems to be an effort by the Victorian Liberal Party to out-left the Labor Party, to out-teal the Teals, to move... this is sort of heading into the Greens territory.
But they've been doing it for a while in Victoria, haven't they?
Look, it's a very, very strange politics. But, as I said, I was in Melbourne earlier today. You wouldn't know there was an election on. I don't think I saw a corfloat anywhere over the last couple of days. So it seems like a very strange election happening down there. And I think this will end up, there's no such thing as a free lunch on the pile of promises that won't ever eventuate from the Victorian Liberal Party.
Prue, Victorians got a pledge from the Greens today. They want to use $60 million of taxpayers' money to make sure that the poor public servants only have a 4-day week. We wouldn't want to have them work too hard, would we?
Oh, we wouldn't. Well, I actually thought public servants were sort of working a 4-day week, not officially, of course, but. You know, I'm not surprised. Let's face it, the Greens are bludgers. They wouldn't have a clue about economics and the fact that, you know, bosses actually need to have workers working. It's called productivity. And then the Greens may find that there's money for us to spend on, you know, through our taxes on all the social little dream things that they want to, you know, think up. So, I mean, look, the Greens are just a waste of space. There are, I know, trials around the world with this 4-day week, and they're saying it works, that productivity does increase, and we like work-life balance. But speaking as a boss, I'm not for it at all.
It's the wrong direction to go. Very quickly, Richo, you're still friends with colourful racing identities. Have you got a tip for Melbourne Cup?
I don't think I've got any tip whatsoever. I don't know who's running, and I'll work out something to put a quid on, because you have to have a bet in the Melbourne Cup. But mate, I am clueless. Absolutely.
All right, Richo, Prue MacSween, Holly Hughes, enjoy your Melbourne Cup, and thank you very much for your time tonight.
See you guys.
There you go.
See you, Chris.
Smithy.